The story begins as a group of kids dream about becoming treasure hunters with the goal of obtaining riches and glory. Everyone is in total agreement, including the kid that's dressed like a cardboard box, and they vow to become the best heroes in the world. Treasure hunters travel the world to explore ruins called treasure vaults so they can collect the relics hidden inside. They risk their lives fighting monsters called phantoms, but in return they can obtain vast riches and glory. A very highly regarded clan is holding interviews for potential new members, and our protagonist named Cry waits in line. There is a limit to how far a solo hunter can go, so it's vital to join a party if they have their sights on a high goal. Some girl named Ruta introduces herself to Cry because he's the only one around that doesn't look like a creep, but Cry awkwardly doesn't shake her hand. Ruta wants to join a party because she has been having a hard time with a certain treasure vault, but some guy mocks her for trying to do so while only being level 3. Ruta's insulted when he calls her an amateur, but the guy points out that she's too low of a level to join the renowned First Steps clan. He recommends that she just run to her mommy, so Ruta challenges him to a fight. The argument is broken up, and Cry is glad that the commotion is over. Inside, Ruta's overwhelmed by all the hunters that are trying to join the First Steps clan, and she is shocked to hear that this is Cry's 5th time being at one of these interviews. Skill is everything for hunters. Those with talent can instantly make a name for themselves and climb the ranks. Those without talent, however, can only cling to the few chances they get. The First Steps clan consists of several parties, and the Archbrave party is the strongest at this interview. They even managed to complete a level 7 treasure vault with just 6 of their members. Their leader is Arch Rodin, and if he accepts a hunter, then they are guaranteed to be successful. However, as far as Kai knows, the Archbrave has never accepted a new member through one of these interviews. Their table is surrounded by a ton of interviewees, but Ruta wonders why another party only has one single empty chair. Just then, the big guy named Greg comes out of nowhere and explains that that table belongs to the party that originally founded First Step. They are called the Grievers, and they came to the capital years ago. With their overabundant talent, they made a name for themselves as one of the top parties in the capital. Their full name is the Grieving Souls, and they're actually the party of Cry's childhood friends. This is the first time that the Grievers are accepting new members, and it's the entire reason so many people came out to the event. There is no one at the table though, so it seems like this might have just been a false rumor. One redheaded kid makes his presence known by saying that he has no time for losers, and he demands to know where the Grievers are. He boasts about already being level 4, and he was planning to allow the capital's strongest party to recruit him. Some girl named Tino is stopped from showing this kid his place, but Tino plans to make it quick, just like her sister would do. She wants to teach him a lesson because she deserves to be in Grieving Souls before this kid, but she is reminded that the clan master told her not to make a scene. It's too late as everyone antagonizes them, and they make room for a fight. Tino is eager to get going, but Cry is worried about something, and he tells Ruta to come outside with him. The redhead wants to do some trash talking, but Tino plans to hear what he has to say after she chops his head off, because again, that's what her sister would do. As Cry makes his escape, he thinks about how he never should have come today. As anticipation for the fight reaches its peak, Tino senses something shocking enough to draw her attention away. She completely ignores the feverish chanting for the battle and pays no attention to the redhead powering up his sword. Instead, her focus is now completely on Cry. Tino shocks everyone by rushing to Cry, but what's even more strange is that she calls him Master. It turns out that Cry is actually the First Steps clan master and leader of Grieving Souls. The clan was waiting for him to get started, and everyone is shocked to realize who he is. In this golden age of treasure hunters, one man stood amongst all of them, and his name is Cry. Several years before all this, Cry and his friends arrived at the capital. They were new, but they were finishing treasure vaults suited for beginners and record speeds. One time Cry was saved by his friend, but his friend just assumed that he was just acting as bait. Cry and his friends all shared the same dream of becoming great hunters, but the amount of talent they had was not equal. His 5 friends possessed monstrous potential, so Cry considered himself to be exceedingly ordinary compared to them. That was when Cry decided that he would only get in their way if he stayed with them. They were all really close friends, so they never said anything, so Cry knew that he would have to make the decision to leave himself. Cry told them all goodbye one day, but they shockingly decided to make him their leader instead. They were all in total agreement, so Kai wondered if they even listened to what he just said. The decision was already made for him, so Kai has spent the last 4 years as the leader of a party of his gifted childhood friends. The entire time, wishing that he could just retire from being a hunter altogether. Back to the present, Ruta can't believe that she was talking to the clan master of First Steps. Cry was super late to the interview because he overslept, but Ark thinks that it was just a joke. Tino tells Ark to get away from him because she hates how superficial he is, but Ark just thinks she's joking too. He credits Kai for diligently scouting the crowd, but he's way off. Ark's impressed that Cry went undercover without his uniform, but again Cry points out that he really did just oversleep. Tino has had enough of Ark, so she wants him to be removed from the clan altogether, but this guy is the leader of Ark Brave. Tino is a solo hunter affiliated with First Steps, and she's an apprentice to Cry's childhood friend named Liz. Cry says that there's no room for new members in the Grieving Souls, but he gets an idea, and he wonders if Ark Brave would take in a new member if he recommended them. Ark trusts Cry with all his heart, so he says that he would. This shocks everyone in the room because Ark Brave rarely ever accepts anyone, but Ark says that one person wouldn't hurt. Cry is glad that Ark is such a generous guy, but one of their members is furious about having someone forced onto their team. Tino assumes that she's the one he will be recommending, so she is really grateful. She is distracted when the mullet head from earlier wants his revenge, but Cry says to leave him be. The kid introduces himself as Gilbert, and Cry is surprised to hear that he isn't in a party, even though he's level 4. Cry can tell that this kid won't be an asset immediately, but he will become something special once he gets training from Ark and the others. Cry, however, is really bad at judging people, so whoever he picks to join Ark will be totally based on luck. Cry then shocks everyone when he chooses to recommend Gilbert, but only on one condition. He explains that the most important thing for a hunter is to not lose, because being weak only puts their party in danger. Because of this, he needs Gilbert to show that he's not going to lose. Cry gives Gilbert a fair warning though, because he has never lost a single time since becoming a hunter. Everyone is amazed by Cry's confidence, but Cry knows that this fact is only true because he has actually never been in a proper fight before. Cry doesn't plan to fight directly this time either. He makes things way more interesting by telling everyone that whoever ends up with his ring will be the one he recommends to join Ark Brave. Cry starts off the madness by giving the ring to Gilbert, so Tino instantly kicks the mullet head right in his face. The ring is dislodged from his hands, and everyone wonders if he's even alive anymore. Everyone goes crazy as they go after the ring, and Cry tells them that it's actually a relic that they can keep if they get it. As the chaos intensifies, Cry says goodbye to the two he met earlier and decides to head home. The next day, Cry is told that he made the front page news. He made a huge fight break out, and it ended up with the entire venue getting blown up. The vice clan master is Ava, and Cry tells her to use Ark Brave's funds to pay for the repairs. Ava thinks that Cry depends on Ark way too much, but Cry doesn't think much of it. Ark is a really laid-back guy, so Cry wants him to speak with the Angry Explorers Association for him as well. The Explorers Association wants to speak with Kai directly, but Cry doesn't want to go outside without an escort. To make things worse, his disguise relic was broken as well. His disguise relic is called the Reversible Face, and it allows its user to have any face they want. Ava assures him that no one will attack him during the day, so Cry decides to just go. At the Explorers Association, Cry begs for mercy and apologizes for causing so much commotion. The association branch manager is Gark, and he tries to calm Cry down. Cry frantically continues to defend himself and points out that no civilians were hurt. Gark's assistant wishes that Gark wouldn't scold Cry so hardly, but Gark points out that he hasn't even said anything yet. Gark explains that while no one has formally complained about the incident, clans like First Step still need to set an example for the other hunters. He can't just let Cry go unpunished. The Explorers Association gets tons of jobs, and some of them hardly pay any money. The other problem they have is that some jobs are so incredibly difficult that nobody will do them. The hunters call these types of jobs chores. Gark plans to punish Cry with one of these chores, and he gets upset when Cry seems like he's going to reject it. Cry clears things up by accepting the punishment, but he points out that what he did this time wasn't actually that bad. Cry looks through the book of chores, and he plans to pick an easy one that he will just pass on to Ark anyway. Cry finds the perfect level 3 chore, and he calls it corpse retrieval duty. The girl points out that it's actually a rescue mission, and she wishes that he wouldn't joke about the hunters not surviving. After he leaves, Gark is impressed with Cry for actually choosing the most dangerous mission. When he returns to his clan house, Cry is shocked to hear that everyone else in the clan is out doing something. Tino reveals that she ended up with his ring because she didn't want anyone else to touch it, and she is glad to hear that she can really keep it. She is surprised when Cry asks if she is free right now, and she eagerly says that she has never been more free in her life. Tino's clearly expecting for him to ask her out on a date, but Cry just wants her to do the chore. Tino runs away as fast as she can, but Cry uses his hounding chain to capture her. Tino has never been more disappointed, as she just wanted to go have some ice cream with Cry. Instead, he just pushed a terrible chore onto her. What's worse is that she's just a level 4 and she can't rescue 5 people on her own. Tino knows that he sends his subordinates on missions where they nearly meet their demise to make them stronger, but she begs Cry not to get carried away with this kind of Spartan training. Kai agrees that she shouldn't go alone. Tino assumes that this means he will be going with her, but she is disappointed to find that he just teamed her up with the hunters he met earlier. 6 years earlier, Cry and his friends arrived at the Explorers Association. It's the treasure hunters' headquarters, but Cry was hesitant to enter. Everyone reminded him that it was his idea to aim for the capital, but Cry feared that he would hold everyone back because of how useless he was. Luke had enough of all this overthinking, and he just barged into the association and declared that he is the greatest swordsman in the world. He demanded to know who was the strongest fighter there, and he challenged them for the title. The pink-haired Liz didn't want him taking all the glory, so she introduced herself as the greatest thief in the world. Cry just wanted to get the registration over with, but his friends went around making declarations. Luke told someone that the truly strong don't need to rely on a weapon, and he said that these are really the words of Cry, their team leader. Cry was told that they would have to register with their party's name and crest, but they never thought about those things. The clerk said that it was really important, so they should take their time deciding, but Cry had a different idea. Cry wanted to get revenge for his friends making him their leader, and he chose a name that he was sure would make everyone think that they were weak. His friends were shocked when he chose to call them the Grieving Souls, and he made their crest a skull. His friends reminded him that they were supposed to be a hero party, but a name like that would make it seem like they are antisocial. Cry tried to use this opportunity to weasel himself out of being their leader, but his friends ended up liking what he chose. With that, their party was made official, and it was the start of how Cry became the renowned leader of the strongest clan. Back to the present, the big guy still can't believe that Cry is the clan master of Steps. This is because the master has the nickname 1000 Tricks and is also a level 8. Tino demands that the newbie group bow down before Cry, but he tells the overzealous chick to calm down. Hunters who achieve a certain status are given special names by the association, and they become revered almost like celebrities. There is no higher praise for a hunter, and 1000 Tricks is the name that was given to Cry. 1000 Tricks is known as the strongest hunter in the capital, so Gilbert refuses to believe that Cry is him. Tino tells the kid that he's just wasting his life if he can't even recognize Cry's power, and she tells Cry that she can't work with these losers. She hates guys that are all talk, but Cry thinks that he's also one of those guys. Cry doesn't consider himself to be the strongest in the capital, and he only became known as that because his friends shouted it to everyone. Gilbert refuses to party up with Tino as well, but it's because he doesn't want to listen to a guy that's lying about being level 8. Greg tries to remind him who he's picking a fight with, but Gilbert just can't believe that Cry is the leader of the strongest party. An argument breaks out between newbies, so Cry decides to just give up on convincing Gilbert. Greg and Ruta are on board, so Cry tells Tino to get another guild member to help her if she needs it. Tino cleverly tries to choose Cry, but he quickly shuts her down. That's all settled, but out of nowhere, Gilbert challenges Cry. He refuses to listen to anyone weaker than him, so if Cry can beat him, then he will go with Tino. Cry accepts the challenge, but he sends Tino to fight in his place. Tino eagerly points out that the kid was being rude to the master, so it's time for her to rain divine punishment down upon him. Tino stretches before the fight, but Gilbert is eager to get his rematch. Gilbert insists on fighting Cry next, but Cry doubts that he will even come close to beating Tino. Gilbert is then shocked to hear that Tino is level 4 just like him. Tino admits to being garbage compared to Cry, but she is confident that she will win the fight easily. Tino even decides to hold back so she doesn't kill Gilbert by accident. The other rookies are kinda worried about Tino though, because thieves aren't so great at head-to-head combat. Cry on the other hand knows better. Tino has plenty of experience fighting humans, and she achieved level 8 solo, so she is likely way better than Gilbert. However, Cry is slightly concerned about Gilbert's relic. It's called the Purgatorial Sword, and it might be able to tip the scales in Gilbert's favor. Just then, Gilbert shocks everyone as he throws his powerful sword aside. He refuses to let anyone underestimate him, and he declares that he doesn't need a weapon to defeat an unarmed female. A swordsman throwing his sword away seems pretty stupid to Cry, but at least now the fight can come down to sheer ability. Tino prepares for battle, and she manages to convince Cry to take her for ice cream when she wins. Tino starts the fight off by surprising Gilbert with her amazing speed, and her kick sends him flying. Gilbert isn't ready to give up, but Tino puts him in a lock and reminds him that she was holding back a lot. She offers to have mercy on him, but only if he worships Cry as a god from now on, and prays to him 3 times a day. She also demands for him to bring her tributes that she can pass on to Cry. Gilbert loses his mind with anger, as he won't be made a fool of, but Tino instantly silences him. Tino credits Cry for helping her get so strong, but he doesn't think he really did anything. The others are shocked by how strong the steps are, and Gilbert can only wallow in his failure. He always knew that he was born to be a hunter. He wielded a sword at a young age, and he quickly surpassed adults with his skill. He eventually came to the capital, where he joined the party and cleared several treasure vaults. Gilbert was really proud of himself, and he began to believe that he was the best. Tino now tells him that he should try using his sword if he wants to keep fighting, but Gilbert refuses. Tino mocks him for his pride and points out that it's all for nothing if he ends up losing his life. Gilbert realizes that she is right because he would have been long gone if this was a real fight. Gilbert is surprised when Kai correctly guesses that he left his party because he was too strong for them. Cry says that the same thing happened with his party, but he thinks about how in his case, his friends didn't abandon him. Unfortunately, Gilbert takes this the wrong way. The Grieving Souls is a group of elites who stand out even above all the greatest parties. So Gilbert is shocked because he thinks that Cry has been showing mercy to his teammates by staying with them even though he is far stronger than them. Cry shocks Gilbert when he touches his sword, activating its power, and Cry is able to tell what it does. It causes elemental damage, and it gives improved attack range. Gilbert can't believe his eyes because he has never seen anyone handle the Purgatorial Sword so easily. That isn't all, as Cry has created a flame that even he has never been able to achieve. Cry did all this without even touching the hilt of the sword. Gilbert's frustration builds as his ego is destroyed, and he calls Cry a monster. We then learn that mana material is said to be the core substance of this world, and treasure vaults are a phenomena where mana material is condensed. This creates alternate worlds inside the vaults based on memories extracted from the core of the world. The White Wolf's Den is one of these vaults, and it's the one Tino is going to. It was inhabited by Silver Moon wolves, but this monster was eradicated due to uncontrolled hunting of its fur. The vault eventually appeared, and so did a blood-soaked wolf phantom. Cry is glad that he didn't go himself, but he is sure that Tino and the others will be fine. It's only a level 3 vault, and there are 4 in her party. Later, Cry thanks Ava for telling him about Gilbert leaving his old party because it really allowed him to surprise the kid. Ava heard about Cry's antics earlier, and he explains that the sword was a type of relic that he can control easily. Cry really loves relics because their infinite variety of shapes and uses make them fun to collect. Also, they allow someone like him to create miracles. Cry wonders if he could buy the Purgatorial Sword from Gilbert, but Ava hates his reckless spending. She thinks that Cry has plenty of relics like it already, but Cry points out that they are all vastly different. They might look similar, but they have their own personalities and they do different things. Cry is seriously addicted to collecting them, and Ava has heard that he has been taking out loans to buy them. Despite the Grievers raking in tons of cash, Cry is a serious delinquent, and he has borrowed a considerable amount of money. The Grievers' profits are split evenly amongst its members, regardless of contribution, so even Cry, who doesn't do anything, gets loads of money. The relic addict goes to get his precious relics charged, and he is told about a rumor saying that a phantom has appeared on a nearby road. It destroyed an entire guarded caravan along with 3 level 3 guards. This means that it must be pretty strong, so the Knights of the Third Order are recruiting for an extermination party. Cry is shocked to learn that it happened by the White Wolf's den, and the vault is now crawling with wolves. Cry convinces himself that it's only a rumor, and even if it isn't, Tino is strong enough to handle anything. Of course, the rumor continues because the monsters inside the wolf's den are apparently getting stronger. The association is even talking about changing its level. Cry continues to brush it off, but the rumor also says that a level 5 party has gone missing in the area. This shocks Cry, so he checks the fact sheet for the chore he chose. It does indeed reveal that the party in need of rescue is level 5, and Cry regrets never actually reading the sheet. The pair he is talking to is shocked to hear that Cry sent the level 4 Tino to a vault where level 5s have gone missing, but Cry says that it will be good practice for her. Cry tries to assure them more by saying that he sent 3 adventurers with her, but they are horrified that he sent her with a makeshift group. They always thought that the horrifying rumors about the trials Cry put his members through were not true, but it's clear now that the tests he does are what make the Grievers the top party. Cry begins to panic about sending the group to their demise, but he again convinces himself that they will be okay. Gilbert is pretty strong, and he also has a powerful relic. Unfortunately, Cry remembers that he used up all the sword's power, and he can only wonder if Gilbert charged it before leaving. We then watch as the group approaches the White Wolf's den. They begin to sense how dangerous the mission is, and Tino explains that she even wrote her will before leaving. Ruda determines that Cry knew that there was something going on in the den, which is why he sent them. Tino believes this as well, as she is certain that their party's composition isn't random. She says that Cry planned every tiny detail, but the guys refuse to believe it because they all just met the day before. Also, Gilbert only came along because he decided to. Just then, Gilbert remembers that Cry even knew why he left his old party, and he realizes that Cry was just manipulating the situation from the very beginning. Tino adds to Cry's legend by explaining that he has vast knowledge of all the adventures in the capital, and it's child's play for him to read their actions and thoughts. Ruda finds it hard to believe, but Greg points out that Cry even calculated what would happen at the interview. Every single thing that has happened has been premeditated. Tino tells them all not to worry though, because no matter what happens, it's all according to Cry's calculations. She is sure that he would never send them on an impossible mission. Unfortunately for these dummies, they are way off, as Cry has done exactly that. He hopes that the group will eventually just give up when the mission becomes too hard, but he knows that Tino won't quit easily. No one will respond for backup at this time of day, so Cry will have to go himself. Back with the group, they are terrified when they encounter a powerful phantom. This is clearly no regular wolf, as it has armor and even a sword. Tino thinks this is just another legendary test that Cry is putting her through, but Cry is desperately searching for relics to help him stop the group from going to the vault. He tries to get as many as he can, but a safe captures his attention. Ava wonders what he's doing, so Cry just tells her that he's just going for a little stroll. Ava can tell that he's worried about the group, but she is shocked to see that he's even taking something called Sea Tree Slime. Cry denies even having this item because it would violate Imperial law. However, Cry thinks about how all the relics that he could use for offense are out of mana, so he needs to take it as a last resort. Ava wonders if he should take someone with him, but Kai's traveling relic only works on one person. Cry activates the relic and takes off into the sky. This concerns Ava because it's the relic from the horrifying human missile incident. It's called the Night Hiker, but it's incredibly dangerous. It has zero safeties, no brakes, and it can't hover or steer. It's basically defective. A short look into the past shows 1 week after the Grieving Souls was created. The Redhead's ultimate divine sword called the Testament Blade had been broken, and he couldn't believe it. The others pointed out that it's pretty much just a wooden sword, and it didn't stand a chance against the Cyclops they just fought. Some old drunk adventurer assumes that they are lying, and mocks them for running away from the beast. The girls in Grieving Souls show him the eye of the Cyclops, and the drunk guy nearly wets himself from fear. Back to the present, Tino's group finishes up wrecking the wolf monster. Such a powerful monster should not have appeared here, and they were lucky because there was only one of them. The others wonder why Gilbert didn't use his flames, so he explains that it's out of mana. Gilbert realizes that it's because Cry used it all up, and he reveals that he can't charge it himself. The others think they should just retreat because the people they are supposed to be rescuing are probably already dead anyway, but Tino refuses. She explains that they're not here to collect the dead, and those people are still alive. Tino declares that the Master's decision making is infallible, and depleting the mana of the Purgatorial Sword must be part of his plan. She figures that Cry just doesn't want them to rely on relics. They eventually arrive at the White Wolf's den, and they find that the wolves there are much larger than usual. The den was created for the original wolves that were much smaller, so these big ones are kind of cramped inside. This means that it would be best if they rush in to fight inside, instead of letting the beasts have more room outside. Gilbert plans to go in first, but Tino insults him several times and even calls him a stupid idiot. It's her duty to keep everyone alive, and rushing in is the dumbest thing she has ever heard. Cry is obviously testing to see how she performs as a leader, so she must keep everyone alive. Tino decides that the girls will draw the monsters forward since they are more nimble and the guys can take out the back line. As the leader, she refuses to let anyone sacrifice themselves as a shield. Meanwhile, we find Cry flying through the air. His thinking is much different than Tino's, as he just hopes that she is alive and he wants her to use the rest of the party as meat shields if she has to. Tino's party has entered battle, but their opponents are considerably stronger than them. However, the one thing they have going for them is teamwork. The group wins their first fight, and Tino is glad that the enemy has no concept of cooperation. The battle continues as more monsters appear, and Tino thinks about how their little makeshift party isn't so bad. Gilbert is a big mouth, but he is pretty strong. Ruta isn't too flashy, but she is an expert at locating enemies. Greg has tons of experience, and he coordinates well with others. Tino credits Cry for putting such a good team together, and she even calls him a god. A look back shows the problems Gilbert had with his old party. They couldn't keep up with him, so he left the party and was full of anger. He realizes now that he wasn't taking their feelings into consideration, and it actually feels really nice to fight with the team. The team wins another battle, and Gilbert says that he's just getting warmed up. Moments later, Tino senses that the dungeon boss is nearby. The others think it's finally time to run away, but Tino points out that they have gotten this far without a scratch, so they should be able to handle the boss too. Tino agrees that caution is generally good, but safe missions don't make people grow. Greg thinks about how when a hunter reaches level 4, they can make a comfortable living just by completing treasure vaults below their level. Greg did this and always just ran away when a mission got too difficult. He has seen countless friends die in battle, so it has made him fearful. Tino can tell that he approached first steps because he wanted to change this about himself, and it's probably why Cry put Greg in this party. She predicts that Cry didn't just put them together randomly, and he actually wanted to save all these losers. She declares that Cry doesn't just do things without a good reason, and everything is going according to his perfect plan. Ruta is now a believer, so she wants to know what Cry's reason for picking her was, but Tino assumes that he just picked her because of her very large plot points. Up in the sky, Cry fears that he's too late to stop Tino from entering the vault. He panics because this flying relic is way too out of control, and he curses the person who made it. It's so crazy and out of control that it sends Cry flying straight into the vault. Inside, Tino's group is horrified when it encounters the boss because it's just way too big. They all run for their lives, and of course Greg wonders if now is a good time to retreat. Tino refuses to give up on one of Cry's trials, and she comes up with a plan. The boss isn't wearing a helmet, so she identifies it as the boss's weak point. The guys distract the giant beast with some attacks, and Ruta's amazed when she notices that Tino never shows any fear. Greg ends up in a dangerous spot when his sword is destroyed, but Ruta manages to save him in time. Tina shows her amazing skills as she closes the gap with the furious monster and stabs him right in the neck. Tino's group is victorious, and she uses a potion on her injured leg. The team is pretty gleeful at this point, as all that is left to do is the rescue. Tino gives Greg a sword for the time being, but she must quickly dodge an attack. Everyone is then horrified when more bosses appear, and they fear that they won't be able to defeat so many. Even Tino thinks that Cry has gone overboard with his test, and she decides that they will have to run into a nearby passage so the bosses won't be able to attack them. Unfortunately, the passage is blocked, so the guys decide that they have no other choice but to act as bait so the girls can escape. The guys tell the girls not to dwell on it too much because it's simply better than all of them dying. Tino wonders why Cry would put them in this position, and she is shocked when she realizes something about Cry's ring. She reminds the others that they will not be sacrificing anyone, and they just need to aim for the boss's eyes. She once again sends everyone to distract one of the beasts, and Ruta manages to make it close its eye. Tino then has a memory of when Cry showed her how to use the relic she won from him. She uses this relic on the boss, and it absolutely blinds it. The others send Gilbert in to deal the finishing blow, but Tino can tell that something is wrong. It's too late, however, as Gilbert gets struck by the monster, and he apologizes for failing. Tino takes the blame for not being a better leader, and she concedes that they are done for as the 4 bosses approach them. Just then, out of nowhere, everyone is shocked when Cry crashes into the vault. Cry says hello to Tino, and Greg notices that the monsters seem to be scared of Cry for some reason. The monsters try attacking Cry, but his shield protects him, and the monsters are shocked. Cry pities the beasts as he explains that he has 17 lives and he uses one of his relics for an attack. This attack is incredibly powerful as it lights up the entire cave, and Greg is shocked to see what a level 8 looks like. Cry wonders why there are so many terrifying looking monsters here because this is supposed to be a level 3 vault. The rest of the group is shocked to see that the boss monster survived Cry's attack, but Cry knew that that would be the case because shooting rings are not that powerful. The rest of the team panics as the other bosses close in on Cry because they have swords and guns for weapons. Cry, on the other hand, isn't too worried as he thinks about how he brought 17 safety rings with him. All the bosses prepare to attack at once, so Cry determines that he has no other choice and he will have to use his secret weapon. The monsters are horrified when he takes his necklace off and drinks something from the vial. Cry uses the vial to create a smoke screen, and he tells the others to run for their lives. They are moving pretty slowly, so Gilbert is sure that they will be caught. Ruta reminds him that Tino is injured, so that is why Cry is purposely moving slowly behind them. This isn't the case, however, as Cry is actually just a really slow runner. Tino also thinks he's doing it on purpose to protect her, and she thinks about the first time they met. Tino was being bothered by some thugs, but the grieving souls appeared to save her. Tino wanted to join the grievers ever since then, and that is when she began her admiration for Cry. Everyone thanks Cry for coming to the rescue, and they credit Tino for keeping them alive for so long. Cry praises Tino for doing so well, but her injuries are causing her a lot of pain. Cry realizes what she wants him to do, so he heals her, and Tino declares that she no longer feels any pain. Gilbert is amazed to see him healing with a relic, but Cry defensively thinks about how he needs a relic for everything. Unfortunately, Cry wasn't able to beat the bosses, but they have more problems on their hands. They are completely lost inside the vault, with no sign of where the exit is, and Cry has no clue what to do. A look into the past shows a time when Cry showed his collection of relics to his party members. They look at them in awe, and Liz tells Cry to fulfill his promise of helping her pick one out for herself. Luke says that it's not fair, and they all start trying all sorts of different relics in front of them. Citri asks Cry about a small bag, and he says that it's a magic bag, which can hold an infinite amount of items. Citri says that it must have cost a fortune to get a bag like this, but Cry reveals that it was actually pretty cheap because it can only hold chocolates. Liz then shows Cry a bracelet she picked up and asks him about it, but before he can say anything, she feels wobbly and falls on the floor. She tries to get back up, but the bracelet makes her fall down again, and Cry explains that it's a labyrinth ring, which causes the wearer to lose all sense of balance. Just then, Luke picks up a sword and says that it's really cool, but Cry says that it's a cursed sword, and it makes Luke go crazy. Cry praises Luke by saying that normally this sword makes people lose their mind, but Luke is acting just like he always does, because he doesn't have a mind to lose. With this, they find out that all these relics are just a bunch of trash, but because they all think of Cry as this cool leader, Luke and Liz pick up their relics as training items. Back to the present, everyone feels relieved to have Cry with them, and they start following him while making their way through the cave. Cry wonders why they're all making him lead the way because it's his first time there and he doesn't know where he's going. He turns around to ask Tino to switch with him, but as he looks back, everyone else starts looking back as well because they think that Cry must have noticed something suspicious. After that, they continue walking forward, and Cry wonders if Tino is mad at him and if he should get on the ground and apologize. However, Gilbert speaks up and asks him if they're going to the exit. Cry thinks about how he wants to go to the exit as well, but he doesn't know the way. Before he can reply, Tino says that she has a vague idea of the cave's layout from the map they saw before walking inside the cave, and according to that, there's no way that this path leads to the exit. The clueless girl thinks that Cry must be testing them and says that if they want to find the exit, they would have to walk back to the boss room. Cry wonders if those giant white wolves were the bosses, and he realizes that that must have been why they were so strong. They continue walking forward, and Cry thinks that it's about time he makes a turn to go back. But everyone becomes shocked, and they wonder how Cry knew about their location, and they rush forward. Cry wonders what they are talking about, and walks back to see that they found the party they needed to search for in the rescue mission, and they helped them with their wounds. Their leader introduces himself as Rudolph, and thanks the heroes for rescuing them. Tino says that he should thank their master Cry, because he's the one who predicted all this, and led them there. However, Cry says that it was all just a coincidence, which makes everyone say that he's just really humble. Ruda says that she replenished their mana with potions, but they will still need something to eat if they want to recover their health. Cry pulls out some of his handy chocolate bars and gives them to everyone. He also offers a special bar to Tino and tells her to suck on his dark chocolate stick, which makes her think that he's a divine being. After that, Greg says that he didn't think that a party of level 5 treasure hunters would be done in by those half-masked wolves. Rudolph says that those wolf knights weren't the problem because they were defeated by a single small phantom with a full-blown face. He calls it the embodiment of grudge, which makes everyone except Cry really surprised. In the meantime, we see the masked phantom walk up to the pack of wolf knights from earlier. It unleashes its power to make them howl, with purple flames and glow surrounding them. Rudolph continues his story by saying that the phantom must be the curse of the silver moon, and was born out of the grudge of monsters that were slain in the treasure vault. He says that they are confident in their skills, but that monster was just on another level. It was especially disrespectful because the monster just soloed them. Rudolph says that the Phantom might even be at the level of the legendary Thousand Swords, and this shocks everyone. Cry explains that the Thousand Swords is the title of the strongest swordsman in the Imperial capital, who mastered all forms of swordsmanship, and is said to be able to cut down any enemy with just a wooden sword. Cry thinks about how the Thousand Swords is actually one of his childhood friends, and a party member of Greaves named Luke. Cry believes that the Phantom of Grudges is pretty strong, but saying that it's on Luke's level is just an exaggeration. Because if that were true, Luke would have already slain it, but it might still be too difficult for Tino. Rudolph says that the first time they encountered the Phantom, it just played with them like toys, and the next time they won't survive for sure. Ruda asks Cry about their next move, and he says that before they face the Phantom, they need to look for a way out of the cave. However, Tino is their leader for this mission, so they should follow her lead. Tino says that she's nothing but dust compared to him, but Cry says that he will help her if needed, while thinking to himself that it's just too scary to lead the way. This gives Tino a lot of confidence, and she says that she can now run fine because her leg is healed. However, Cry reminds her that they have injured members, so they should be mindful of them. In reality though, Cry knows that they just can't keep up with her speed if she starts running for real. Rudolph says that if they encounter the Phantom, he will act as a human shield, and he begs the others to escort his friends to the capital if that happens. However, one of his party members stops him and says that he will act as a human shield instead. Tino declares that she has no intention of leaving anyone behind, and as long as their master is with them, they will be alright. Just then, they hear the wolves howling in the distance and wonder if they're getting closer. Cry checks his rings and notices that he only has 5 safety rings left, which means he would go down for real if he gets hit a 6th time. His shot ring doesn't seem to be working either, and he lost Sea Tree Slime as well. Besides that, he dropped a relic sword that he attached to his waist on the way here, and he wonders if he's actually screwed this time. Meanwhile, we see a masked figure walking through the mist in the cave, while Gilbert and Greg stay on the lookout for attacks from the wolves and the Phantom. Just then, Tino notices something strong coming their way, and Rudolph prepares to attack as well, but Cry stands in front of them. He thinks that if he uses Night Hacker to launch himself like a missile, he will lose one life, but it might help them take out the Phantom with a surprise attack. Soon the Phantom reveals itself from the mist with purple flames behind it. Its sight makes Ruta and Gilbert really scared, and Tina looks from behind Cry's back as well, but then she notices the masked figure from earlier, and it makes her freak out really bad. She holds on to Cry's cape and begs him to help her. She says that she will be a good girl who will do her best, and asks Cry to save her this once. Just then, Cry wonders why some masked girl is there as well. The Phantom looks back to see who is there, and the masked girl vanishes and kicks the living daylights out of the Phantom. It turns out that the girl is actually part of the Grieving Souls named Liz, and she walks up to Cry and asks him if that was their new member. Cry says that it obviously wasn't and asks her to take her mask off. Liz gives him the relic sword that he lost on the way, while the others wonder who she is. This makes Liz really mad, and she wonders how they never heard of the strongest party in the entire empire, and she wonders if they're imposters. Liz was really sad because when she went to the capital to find Cry, she was told that he was at this cave. Liz is really embarrassed because of her apprentice, and she walks up to Tino and scolds her. Gilbert tries to stick up for her, but Liz kicks him to another dimension. She points out that she's busy apologizing to Cry for having a pathetic, useless waste of space apprentice. She then gets back to scolding Tino and makes her feel bad for being born in this world, but Cry defends her by saying that she did her mission and was a decent leader as well. This makes Liz calm down a bit, and she tells Tino that she's talented after all. However, she lacks motivation and the will to die for her goals. Just then, the Phantom gets up and summons one of the Wolf Knights with a Gatling gun, scaring everyone. The wolf shoots them with a bunch of bullets, but Liz sighs and says that because of Tino, everyone thinks that she's weak as well. Liz then uses her insane speed to catch all the bullets and stacks them on the ground around her in a pattern. Everyone is really amazed by this, and Liz says that such old weapons mean nothing to her, and they are no big deal. She walks right up to the Wolf Knight and says that armor or not, these are mere XP mobs and they can be slain in whatever way you want. She then blows the monster up with one attack. After that, the Phantom attacks her with its sword, but Liz catches it in her fingers and says that swords are useless as well. She can catch them, break them, and even play around with them. She wonders why Tino can't do all this while kicking the Phantom into the air and then sending it into the ground with a punch. She then gets on top of it and beats the dark edginess out of it until the Phantom turns into a real ghost. After Tino cries from all the trash talk, Cry starts feeling bad for her. He then welcomes Liz back after she's done taking her anger out on the Phantom. Afterwards, they return to the town where Gilbert decides to give the Purgatory Sword to Thousand Tricks. He says that he will continue training with his old team, and one day he will be able to catch bullets like Liz. No one believes he can do it, and Tino says that if he really wants to be like Liz, then he should know that their masks are specially made. This takes us back to 6 years ago when Cry made their masks, and it turns out that he messed up the order. He forgot to tell the mask maker to cut holes for their eyes, but everyone went along with it because they thought that Cry did it on purpose. They thought it was a special feature to protect them from enemies' blinding attacks, and if they can learn to walk around in those, they will grow even stronger. Back in the present, Cry seems to be looking for something and says that he can't find it anywhere. He walks outside and just hopes to forget about it. Thanks for watching my recap, subscribe to the channel for more videos.